are at that time when a great transition takes place.
The society, the way we know it now, is changing very rapidly.
People are becoming more conscious of the fact that we need to change our habits and take responsibility.
We have to go along with the change that's happening, as opposed to fear it and resist it.
We have all heard about 2012. It's doomsday. The world will end, mankind will end.
Some people have got this idea things will stop, things will end a catastrophe, but actually none of the philosophy is saying that.
The agenda seems to be trying to put a negative spin on it, to radiate fear out on the planet as opposed to love.
And love is the glue of the universe.
The more one loves and finds unity in this world and harmony, the more the blessings will be when that time comes.
A prophesied acceleration of both technology and consciousness is occurring right now, which is right on time with what's been decoded from the Mayan information.
All shall benefit on different levels, because that's how the universe elevates souls.
What is getting ready to happen is a positive thing. It's a step forward in an evolution. It's an awakening in consciousness.
If we have a good look at our solar system and how it works, the moon goes around the Earth is rotating and orbiting the sun. Now our sun, in turn, is orbiting Sirius. Well, that affects the consciousness of mankind, because we have 100% consciousness when the two stars are close to each other. Then the consciousness falls to 75%, 50% and 25%. In the great orbit of our two suns, we have turned the corner from the Dark Ages. Now they're pulling towards each other, bringing us to a higher consciousness. So we're really in just a great time in history to be living. It's just an amazing time. The great changes that we will see with our own eyes will just be stupendous. The new world of love is coming.
Life on Earth is affected by many cycles: the light of the day and the dark of the night, and our yearly cycle of the 4 seasons. The stars in the sky are linked to life on Earth and greatly influence our existence. That which is above is the same as that which is below. As above, so below. But what if there is a greater cycle that takes thousands of years, which influences human consciousness? According to many cultures, much like the seasons that are familiar to us, humankind undergoes a similar cycle in which consciousness expands and contracts. It results in great ages of enlightenment and dark ages of misery. Different cultures refer to this cycle by different names, including the Yuga cycle or the ages of man. But one thing is certain: these cycles are known to almost every ancient culture throughout the globe. The Hindu Yuga cycle consists of 4 ages: the Kali Yuga or Dark Age, Dvapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and the Satya Yuga, the Golden Age. During the Golden Age, human consciousness is at its peak, where unity is celebrated and life is lived in peace, love and harmony. In the Silver and Bronze Ages, our consciousness begins its descent to its lowest point, the Dark or Iron Age, in which suffering and ignorance is at its peak, and humans are divided and at war. That is our current age. Then the cycle makes its way up again to the Golden Age. These 4 ages influence the rise and fall of civilizations across the globe. It is believed that we are at that time when the Dark Age is coming to an end and the Bronze Age begins. And the crossover is taking place during the galactic alignment on December 21st, 2012. The mainstream media throughout the globe depicts this date as the end of the world, in which catastrophic events will extinguish all life on Earth. The end of the world theory is based on the Mayan long count calendar, which ends exactly on the 21st of December 2012. Although many claim that the Mayans have predicted the end of the world, there is no evidence to suggest so. The Mayan calendar simply resets on this date as one cycle ends and a new one begins. Many believe that the marker left by the Mayans indicates a great change in consciousness as we leave the zodiac age of Pisces and enter the age of Aquarius. The date has become the most anticipated day in history, and while many are anticipating it with love, others anticipate it with fear. What were the ancients trying to tell us? Is it the end of the world, or is it a time of great change in human consciousness?
Man, know thyself, and you will know the universe and all its gods. So when one understands that we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, the stars that go above and around in various different cycles, then we understand the connection between us and the God.
Individual people by themselves, groups, societies, the mood of the whole planet can all be altered, can all be changed. And the reason for that is because the planet, groups, societies aren't what they appear to be. They're just another level of consciousness. We're all consciousness.
If consciousness changes to a higher vibration, which I feel is happening in 2012, then the society, the way we know it now, will not be there anymore. The old has to go. The new has to come.
Religious traditions are looking forward to this time because they know that it will bring much peace and love and joy and wisdom to mankind.
You become aware what you really are. You become aware that you're one with God and that you are God.
Individual little elements or atoms of that divine.
And when one realizes the God within us, he can see the God within everyone.
Just trust in love, everything else comes.
The universe knows what we need, and the solar system knows where it's going. The sun is flying through the heavens, taking us to new places, so we can rest assured that we're in good hands.
We have all heard about 2012. It's doomsday. The world will end, mankind will end, comets come down, and who knows what.
Well, some of the things to do with 2012 that are out there are quite contrasting, aren't they? To say the least. People are looking forward to terrible things happening, and probably films like 2012 don't help. There's a lot of fear out there.
Some people have got this idea that things will stop, things will enter catastrophe, but actually none of the philosophy is saying that. They're saying it's the beginning of something new.
On 21 December 2012, when you get up in the morning, the sun will be shining, or it's clouded, whatever, and nothing has changed. It's just another day. And then you think, where was all this doomsday talk? It will be just like another normal day. You have nothing to fear. But what might happen, I feel, could have been a great change in consciousness.
A prophesized acceleration of both technology and consciousness is occurring right now, which is right on time with what's been decoded from the Mayan information.
And the clock struck 1 and everything was sorted. It's never ever going to happen. It's a gradual process.
The Mayans are teaching that beautiful things will happen, wonderful things, great changes in the consciousness of mankind. Certainly there's a consciousness shift going on.
What is getting ready to happen is a positive thing. It's a step forward in an evolution. It's an awakening in consciousness.
What is happening at this moment is discussed in all the the Bibles and mythologies of the world. The ancient ones knew the cycles. The Hindus call these cycles the Yuga cycle, 24,000 years, in which we go through the gold, silver, bronze and iron age, just like we go through the yearly summer, winter, winter. So we do this in the 24,000 year backward processional cycle. And we are at what the prophecies say is the time of the harvest, the time of the end of this wave of evolution of mankind, where certain ones awaken, remember who they are and reclaim their divinity.
The society, the way we know it now, will not be there anymore or is changing very rapidly. People don't believe in the old system anymore.
You're not out chasing the so-called dream that you've been brainwashed to believe you should be anymore. You're actually doing what your inner self dictates to you.
People start to become aware of who they are, and they start to realize that there's more to life, and they really do want more, but not in terms of material things. They want more in terms of peace and love and no more wars. And people are starting to realize that there is a community of humanity out there.
We're experiencing a kind of a tsunami right now in consciousness, and it's about ready, in my opinion, to turn into a tidal wave of awareness.
This beautiful awakening is quite a positive thing, so it's definitely not something that we should have any fear about.
We have to go along with the change that's happening, as opposed to fear it and resist it.
And when we go into fear and loathing, our body shuts down, our chakras, our consciousness.
It's possible people in that frame of mind could even get left behind. On the other hand, if they open up and accept it and become a part of it, then they become a part of an amazing transformation that's getting ready to occur.
What is really, in fact, going to happen is the galactic alignment in two respects. If you look at the galactic plane, if you imagine the galaxy as a very, very thin dish in the heavens, well, our sun, it's in a cycle of 24,000 years called precession of the equinoxes. And during that cycle, it spends 12,000 years above the equator of the Milky Way galaxy, the galactic plane, and 12,000 years below. So our sun is now sitting below that galactic plane, and it's popping its head through and it's passing that galactic plane right now as we speak, and on the 21st of December 2012 it'll be moreover. The other aspect of this is that the equinoxes have been migrating around the heavens through the signs of the zodiac for 24,000 years. The vernal equinox occurs on the 21st of March. Now, at the moment, on the 21st of March, it's actually Pisces, because it's the sign that appears on the horizon on the 21st of March. That sign is the sign that we're in. Now, we've been in that sign, the sun has been in it at the equinox for 2,000 years. Now it's right at the end of Pisces, and the new sign coming through is Aquarius. And the sun will be in Aquarius for 2,000 years.
Each age is about approximately 2,000 years. Each age represents a kind of a level of consciousness, and at each shift there's a shift in consciousness. And that's the symbol for Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius is happening right now. The age of Aquarius represents a period where, spiritually speaking, instead of worshiping the single god or guru or martyr on the cross or whatever you want to have, instead of focusing your energies in that way, the age of Aquarius tends to look for truth in one another, in each other, and in each individual person. That's a big shift in the consciousness. It also represents the onset of technology, but hopefully clean technology.
The Piscean age is an age of division.
Different languages, different cultures, different concepts and ideas. We're so divided, it's horrific.
The age of Pisces has been true to its name. We've been very divided. We can look forward to an age of harmony with Aquarius, a greater level of understanding and unity of consciousness.
And Aquarius is an air sign. It's a fixed air. So its nature is quite different to the mutable water of Pisces. We've been in a mutable cross for 2,000 years. The equinoxes, and they've been in the mutable signs of Pisces. This is the March equinox, Virgo, the other equinox, and the solstices have been in Gemini, the solstice of June the 21st, and Sagittarius, December the 21st. Now what's happening is as those equinoxes move around that clock and they come into the fixed signs, what's going to happen is this. The vernal equinox will be in Aquarius, the autumnal equinox will be in Leo, which is fixed fire, the solstice will go to Taurus, fixed earth, and the winter solstice will go to Scorpio, fixed water. Now these 4 signs are the fixed signs. So the Holy Cross, the divine cross in the skies, will be situated in their most natural home, the fixed signs. Well, in this age it's been in Pisces, which is mutable, and before that it was in Aries, which is cardinal. So now it gets to be fixed. And that is the alignment. That is what's taking place, because those signs there are very, very powerful. The fixed signs. They're very powerful in the transformation of the human consciousness. And in the Bible and in the holy books, they are the lion, the bull, the man, and the eagle. And in Revelation, God is described as having the face of a man, the face of a bull, the face of an eagle, and the face of a lion. Well, that's the fixed signs of the zodiac. They're going home. The equinoxes and the solstices are going home. And that is what we're looking forward to. That's what it means. There's big things happening with 2012.
We're getting ready to evolve at a very fast rate. The reason this happens is because the center of the galaxy puts out pulses in their waves. And the reason it does that is the same reason a cell in your body puts out vibrations within that cell to make sure that the cell as a whole is operating on the same page. If there's a wave of consciousness that is sent out from the center of the galaxy and we pass through one of these waves, then the consciousness on the planet as a whole begins to expand and vibrate at a higher frequency, evolve much faster than previously before.
There is what's called yugas, and yugas means world ages, and it starts off with called Satya Yuga, which means golden. Then it devolves into Treta, which means silver. Then we go to Dwapara, and this means bronze. And currently we're in the Kali Yuga, which means iron. And these cycles of ages go around continuously. The golden age lasts for 1.768 million years. That humans live for 100,000 years. That gold is something you eat off and maybe just discard like a paper plate today. The point is that they are very highly advanced souls, that the human Earth planet under the Satya Yuga, Golden Age, is only occupied by mystics, serious yogis. And it's described that the demonics live on another planet. So we're separated by space. Then as we move into the Treta Yuga, Silver Age, it becomes 1.296 million years. People live for 10,000 years, they eat off silver, And now the demons live on another country on the same planet. The only thing separating is ocean. Then we come into Dwapara Yuga, Bronze Age, which is 864,000 years, or half the length of the Golden Age. People live for 1,000 years. They have good and bad in the same family. You can see in the Old Testament that is Bronze Age culture, Dwapara Yuga. So they're living for 1,000 years. All the Old Testament folks, Noah or Adam, all live for a lot more time than we do. And then we come into Iron Age. In Iron Age, we're going to live for 100. Good and bad is in each and every single one of us. It's not separate now. It's in us. And we have to become conscious of not to fan the flame of the negative actions.
In all the traditions, we are at that time when a great transition takes place. A wonderful transition, beautiful. And where the sun is taking us in the 24,000 year processional cycle is back to the Dvapara Yuga. And all the religious traditions are looking forward to this time because they know that it will bring much peace and love and joy and wisdom to mankind.
This is a cycle which continues in its nature and behaviour, but does never come back to the same place. So we're always growing with this. The feathered serpent, our solar system, we just have to trust that that feathered serpent takes us to greener pastures. In fact, the Mayans tell us that it will. Because on the 21st of December 2012, where this galactic alignment is going to occur, then shall start newer influences and different influences that like we've not seen for a long time since our awakening, because we are awakening. And the dead that shall arise, that the scriptures talk about, the dead shall rise, that's not dead in terms of in the tomb and then all of a sudden you pop up out of the tomb as literalist Christianity try and teach. It's talking about that we have been dead in sleepfulness. We have been sleeping. Now as we learn this stuff and we remember the symbols now because we know what these mean, they've been lying dormant in the winter of unconsciousness for thousands of years. And the Romans went destroying the temples of Egypt and defacing their monuments and the hieroglyphs that they didn't understand. And the Christians, you know, they destroyed the Mediterranean's cultural, spiritual, hermetic heritage. Alexandria, the library, was burnt. Now as we awaken and we reclaim our dominion, this science is essential. Astrology is the science of as above, so below. And it is the beginning of understanding who you are. When you realise that you are this, and you look up and you go, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. You know what the stars are. They're fountains of life.
Firstly, we have solar system, Sol being the sun, and the male energetic in our solar system. And all the planets are regarded as feminine, generally speaking, dancing with the masculine. We, as human beings, with the human eye, can only see the 7th planet. 5 planets actually, Sun and Moon. The external planets, or the planets in the outer solar system, cannot be seen by the human eyesight without an optical instrument. Those 7 planets are influencing us daily. And if you want the proof, go to your newspaper and you will see in the weather area, sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset, and in a special little box, the rising of Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. They're there. It's there. Now they've been trying to eradicate astrology because the Christian church doesn't accept it. But actually, they're the only group in the world that doesn't. The Jews are based in astrology. You can see the remnants of it in the Christian church with the 12 apostles. They've replaced the houses of the zodiac. And if you go into a Hindu temple, when you firstly go in, on the left, you'll see 12 constellations as deities. When you go all the way around the temple to see all the other persons in the temple, then there's the 7 planets. If it's a bright, sunny day when you wake up, it's having a good effect. If the clouds get between you and the sun, it filters that good effect. Now, for plant life, aquatic or tidal behaviour, all feminine life on the world planet is governed by the moon. That's why we call it a menstrual cycle, from the word moonstrel cycle. And the other word we say is a lunar cycle, lunatic. And the law knows, the police know, and every authority knows that as the moon moves into its full position, it has an esoteric effect on humanity. Many, many more stupid acts will be occurring around the full moon. Do they affect us? Absolutely. The sun and the moon are the strongest on the earth.
Sirius B goes around Sirius A, and it takes 49.9 years. It is so heavy that a teaspoon of it will be hundreds of tons. It is spinning on its axis 23 times every minute. This is a sun. This is a star, guys. Right? It's that heavy. It is so powerful magnetically that it directly affects our Earth. In 1989, when this little fella here, this very heavy, hard little fella, when he passed between Sirius A and our sun, with its Earth going around here, the spin rate slowed down in 89, losing a full second per day for a period of several weeks before the event, and then sped up again, gaining a second per day for several weeks after the event. Take note of that, man. That's a star that's 8 light years away. It slowed and sped our Earth. If we have a good look at our solar system and how it works, for instance, the moon goes around the Earth in turn is rotating and orbiting the sun. So it takes 365 days to go around the sun. Now our sun, in turn, is orbiting Sirius. Sirius being the brightest star in the sky and in the sector of Cancer, right near Gemini. It is in a binary with our star. And every 24,000 years we go around each other in a clockwise motion. Sirius and our sun have been going away from each other for the last couple of thousand years, and now they've turned the corner, so they're heading towards one another. As we reach the outer limits of that orbit, that elliptical orbit with our sun and Sirius, this is where the Iron Age is. The Golden Age is when they are close to each other, and then as they separate, they go through the Silver and the Bronze to the Iron Age. Well, that affects the consciousness of mankind, because we have 100% consciousness when the two stars are close to each other. The consciousness falls to 75%, 50% and 25%. We've not enjoyed full consciousness for a long time, and many of the gifts and abilities and powers that we once had. As we have turned the corner in the great orbit of our two suns, Sirius and our sun, as we have turned the corner and they are hurtling towards each other now, we have turned the corner from the Dark Ages. We've come out of the dark period because the suns have been pulled apart and their influence is weakened, and therefore our consciousness has dropped. Now they're pulling towards each other, bringing us to a higher consciousness. And that's nature. Nature helps us and carries us through the ascension process. So it's all loving. Even though there's chaos and there's fear and anguish and chaotic events occurring around us in our world, even though that is happening, that's really just the remnants of the Dark Ages. So we've turned the corner. The two suns are hurtling towards each other at great speeds now, and that's the beautiful part of where we are. So we're really in just a great time in history to be living. It's just an amazing time. The great changes that we will see with our own eyes will just be stupendous.
We are actually just simply locked into a series of cycles, and it's the duty of every human being, when they're ready, to discover their own awareness, to take control of themselves.
In the book of Daniel of the Bible, it says that in this time many will come to an accurate knowledge of the truth, and they will whiten their robes and they will turn to the truth. But it also mentions that many will just go off into the darkness and continue on the path of darkness.
It's true, we're in a dark age right now, but we're getting ready to come out of it. And those who identify with the darkness, those who feel at home and comfortable with it, yeah, they want to keep it that way. They don't want things to change. They're afraid of light coming in. They're afraid of people waking up. If everyone starts to find out that this, what 2012 really is about, then that's going to accelerate the process even more. They're going to start catching on to the truth of what's happening. So to suppress the information is part of the 2012 agenda.
The media portrays 2012 as doomsday. The world will end, mankind will end, comets come down, and who knows what.
The agenda seems to be trying to put a negative spin on it.
Get it on for the end of the world. New Links 2012, the final edition.
A growing number of Americans getting ready for doomsday. You think that's crazy? Right after the break, spend a couple of minutes listening to our next guest and see what you think then. Well, you may have your car, lawnmower, and the family junk stuffed in your garage, but for one Arizona man, it is the staging area for doomsday. And he is not the only one. The supplies and tools he needs to survive the apocalypse, whichever way it may come.
People preparing for basically the end of days and extreme doomsday bunkers. Jake Jacoby is joining us now with more about that.
Well, there is a phenomena right now among people, especially because of the year 2012, to take more advantage of being prepared for doomsday-like disasters.
Thousands are now on high alert, stockpiling food and building underground bunkers, even in Australia. And companies are cashing in. They're selling survival items like gas masks, nuclear protection suits, and even food and water tablets.
The obvious question comes, well, why would anyone want to take something that isn't necessarily negative, and even worse, something's actually a positive thing, and turn it into a negative thing, using it as a means to radiate fear out on the planet as opposed to love?
The people who got their hooks into this information, disinformation, misinformation, have really hoodwinked humanity's progress. So in the movie, for instance, 2012, there's fear and loathing. And this is so far away from what the potential is.
Because if you can radiate fear, that can keep that frequency, which is expanding and growing higher, contracted. That, to me, suits the 2012 agenda.
Well, with regard to 2012, the media is not the place to source for information. It'll be misinformation, and it'll be negative. And it is. It's very negative. And of course, they're driven by fear. They love fear. And the people who control those stations and those networks, they are happy to generate fear.
Clips warning viewers about December 21st, 2012. That's the date that many doomsday prophets are claiming the world as we know it will end. My next guest, Jim Durden, works with Survival Group, which is planning for this apocalypse. Jim, how will it happen? Will it be an object from outer space? Will we destroy ourselves in a nuclear holocaust? How will it happen in 2012?
Well, based on the Mayan calendar and the Dresden Codex, the Egyptians and the Mayans had the end times of 2012 as an apocalyptic event.
Their calendar predicts the 21st of December is when the world will end. And while that won't stop most of us from making plans for Christmas, there are tens of thousands of believers who are preparing for the worst.
According to one ancient prophecy, the end of the world is only weeks away. So, are you ready? It's the ancient calendar that ends on December 21 this year. In other words, Doomsday.
It's not the Mayans telling us this business, it's Westerners interpreting what they think the Mayans were saying. They see a stele, they see a piece of carving, and then they start to interpret. What a joke. What an absolute joke.
There's been a lot of co-opted, incorrect information out there, and it's deliberate.
Major media destroy information. If we had a mainstream media that even vaguely associated itself with the true meaning of the word journalism, none of this would be possible. But the same people that control the politicians own the media. And so the media is not there, just like governments, to serve the interests and inform the people. It is there to tell the people what those who own the media want them to believe.
They see this consciousness happening and they're fighting it with everything they've got. And so they're trying to turn it into a negative thing as opposed to a positive thing, which is really what's occurring.
If you take the Mayan perspective, the Mayans have got a totally different perspective to what we think, what we've been taught, but they believe that good things are coming.
The Mayans themselves never said the world would come to an end. The only guy who did, the first guy, was Jose Arguelles, who later renamed himself Voltan Valtan, the ancient Mayan god, because he had turned into the reincarnation of it. And he, in 1988, wrote a book called The Maya Factor. The Mayans themselves, however, said the complete opposite. They had left behind carvings in stone saying that there would be good things happening in the future, like such and such a day after the 21st of December.
And the fear for mankind is basically the fear of death, which we shouldn't have. Because if we continued to teach our original nature religion, and we didn't stop with the advent of Christianity, we would still know. We would know that death of our body is just it's a non-event, because the soul is immortal. But because we've lost this wisdom and true religion about the soul and its immortal nature, with fictional religions, we have fear of death. There was never fear of death.
The fear sets up a victim, perpetrator and rescuer cycle, right? And we get trapped in that victim, either victim mentality or perpetrator or rescuer. A rescuer is just another victim.
And there's nothing more debilitating, more controlling and limiting than the victim mentality. We're encouraged by this manipulation throughout our lives to see ourselves as victims, to blame someone else. Oh, I'm a victim, I'm in this situation because of A, B, C, D, and on it goes. And when we're in that state, we're going to stay in that state, because when you think you're a victim, the victim vibe goes out, the victim circumstance goes in. When you say, hey, I'm not a victim, I'm in control of my life, I've created these circumstances I don't like, therefore I can create circumstances I do. At that point, the victim mentality is gone. Victim circumstances stop being attracted, and suddenly people come into your life who are just the people you need to get you out of the circumstances you don't like. And if you don't realize what's happening, and most of us don't at the time, we say, oh my God, mate, I was so lucky. This fella came into my life at just the right time, this person, I couldn't believe it. Amazing luck. No. You pulled them in because your state of being had changed and you synced with what you needed to get out of that situation. We are so in control of our destiny, it's unbelievable. And yet billions are persuaded they're not, and therefore they create a very different reality. So if we're in fear, we can attract a reflection of fear.
The fear is a lack of being all-powerful. And so being anything less than infinite love puts us into a state of fear.
One of the first things we're subject to is fear. You can just fall over and hurt yourself. I could bleed. You don't want to put your hand in that, pot, it's too hot. There's sharks in the water. All these things, fear. And this is the greatest stick that anyone can give to controlling a human being. It's called slavery. Any other name you can call, but nonetheless, if a person doesn't have freedom, they have to become some sort of slave. This is the way we become. Our consciousness is controlled. We wake up in the morning, the alarm goes. We have X amount of time before we have to be at work. We know if we leave a few minutes earlier, we'll probably have an easier travelling time. This is all fear. All of it's fear. I don't want to lose my job. If I lose my job, I lose my house. My wife will leave me, my children. It's all fear. What we don't want to become is slaves to the media. There's a machine that's pumping out every day. They say two things about the paper that you can rely on. The price of the newspaper and the date. Those two things you can rely on. And then they say, you better check the date.
If you're tricked into fearing by the media and people talking of weapons of mass destruction and all this over and over again, if you're tricked into going into the fear camp, then what is actually happening is you're relating to the universe through your ego, which is easily controlled and easily deceived.
By keeping us involved with fear, it will be very difficult for us to, let's say, ascend. That's the popular word for that.
The people who control our society don't want us to go into bliss. Because if our chakras and our kundalini and other things are all awake and we become more divine conscious, as a super conscious, an awareness, they have no control over you. If there's nothing to fear except fear itself and you drop that fear, then you have to be in bliss.
If you choose love, the ego subsides, you wake up and you start seeing the reality of what's really going on around you. The ego only has a very small vision of what actually is taking place and occurring. And an individual in an ego is very easily controlled. But a person awakening, a person who becomes enlightened, can't be controlled at all. In fact, there's an old saying that an enlightened being plays with the universe the way that a child plays with a ball. Because they see the reality of everything. They can't be tricked. They can't be fooled.
It's like a spell has been cast on the human mind to disconnect us from the full magnitude of who we are. And great news is the people in control of breaking that spell is us. Not some external force, us. It's just a choice. We're now in a time, a wonderful time, when balance is returning.
You just have to have faith to trust in love, to choose love and to trust in love, and that will end up taking you into a much better place.
The more responsible we become for our actions, the more harmonious the world will be.
If you continue to operate out of fear and continue to operate through the ego, then you'll continue to be controlled and you'll continue to not have a clue about what's going on in the world and around you, or even inside you for that matter.
Governments destroy freedom. This is the great one. If people are new to this is the first big step. Governments are not there to serve the people. Governments are there to serve those that control the governments and enslave the people. That's what they're there for. Once we realize that, then a lot of dots start to connect.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
It's supposed to be a hidden elite which own and run the corporations, they own the banks, they own the media, and so they've got total and absolute control of everything just about.
They control all the major important institutions of the world. They subvert organisations, they infiltrate organisations, they are very, very active, they send spies all around the world, they hack our telephones and listen to our conversations. We're being spied on by these families.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else.
They're not in the spotlight, so to speak. They're not the world leaders that we see, but there's something behind that. That's a fairly obvious thing because leaders come and go, don't they? They're always transient. But these people do not come and go. They're always there, and they run the cogs of the machine at the highest level over the ages.
They go back a long, long, long way. And so they maintain their bloodlines and keep a lot of power and wealth. And as they intermarry, they amass more wealth and more power against other families.
They own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all, at all, at all.
These elite families call themselves the Illuminati. Their symbols are always, you'll have an eye or a pyramid or something like that. Not that these are bad symbols, these are beautiful symbols, but by using these beautiful symbols, they've given them a bad name, so people associate the pentagram and the hexagram with satanic symbols. Well, they're not, they're just nature's symbols.
We know you are ruthless. We know you are evil. To David Rockefeller, to the Rothschild representatives here, to the Queen of the Netherlands, to all of you, we tell you, you are not our queens, you are not our kings, you are not our gods. We do not belong to you. We are not your slaves. We stand as free humans, have stood since the beginning of time against the strong men, against the thugs, against the bullies. We will defeat your world government.
The Illuminati are after world control. They want a new world order.
A new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
I had planned another closing message, but I feel compelled to say what I'm about to say. Now, I risk sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but it's no longer a theory. What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government. This is terrorism of the most worst kind, brought on you by our own government.
And it's not going to be a nice new world order. It's going to be a fascist oligarchic dictatorship. It's going to be hell on earth. Martial law, concentration camps, but they just want their workers. They want a very, very wealthy, rich class and workers. No smart people, no bottom class, just slaves and them.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest.
Darker forces really fear a man who is in touch with his own truth and is dictated by that, because they can't control you anymore.
Well, they could very well lose their power base by us becoming awakened. And so, in order to keep us under control, they promote an agenda of fear.
If a cow were to someday wake up and realize its fate, that it's going to end up in a McDonald's hamburger one day, if it had that understanding, do you think it'd continue to stay out there and eat grass? Or do whatever the farmer wanted him to do? Hell no. But as long as that farmer can keep that cow in cow consciousness, that's not going to happen.
We hear about a whole lot of conspiracies, and perhaps a lot of them are true. You know, like the idea of fluoride in your water, it affects the pineal gland. Well, perhaps that was a deliberate strategy in order to stop people raising their consciousness.
I could give you a long list, but you know, the food we eat, the way we're educated, what we're told to believe, all of this plays a part. They keep us dumbed down. They keep us unaware.
We live in a world which, take a step back, deep breath, look at it again, is utterly bloody insane. And we're asked to believe, and so many people do, that we are somehow at the cutting edge of human evolution. We're nowhere near the edge of what is possible and what is there to be known. But the norms are very powerful, especially when, from cradle to grave, we are constantly manipulated and confused with contradictory information, and when we're pressured to believe it, otherwise we'll get ridiculed or condemned for being different. Just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom, the major media destroys information, and religions destroy spirituality. That's where we are.
The world is turned upside down and people are confused. And the reason this is happening is because of these Illuminati families. They've done this to us. It's deception.
Society has allowed itself to be dumbed down. I mean, we're just as much to blame as they are for allowing it to happen. But unfortunately, there is an awakening happening now, and people are starting to wake up.
People are opening their eyes and seeing what's being done to them. They're finally seeing that they've been sodomized for such a long time, and they're not free. Just because we've got freedom to choose what colour milkshake we're going to have, what flavour, it doesn't mean we're free. That's an illusion. You're not free. It's a police state.
That force, which is contracting awareness and consciousness, I think is starting to get a little bit nervous and a little bit afraid. It's worried, and because it seems like it's upscaling things, you know, as this consciousness revolution is starting to occur, it doesn't want it to happen So greater and greater measures are taken.
The elites and the power families realise that they are losing their grip on the system. The system is collapsing. And so they, naturally, like every organism, are trying to prolong their existence. Therefore, they try to keep fear out there and fear out there, but a lot of people are just not buying into it. And the reason being is because our sun is bringing us into the higher essences, the higher consciousness. And therefore we refuse to go back. We can't. We can just climb up now.
What was a kind of a willing, complacent dumbing down is now getting ready to turn into a big conflict between the forces in control who want to keep everybody as they were and this consciousness revolution who can't possibly exist on that level now that their eyes are open.
We will defeat your world government. I stand before the creator of the universe, and I ask the creator of the universe, as our founding fathers did in 1776, to lead, guide, and direct us, and to give us the power and the foresight and the understanding and the will to stand against your entire agenda, including your final plan of world population reduction of 80%. Why do you put mercury in the vaccines, stannous sodium fluoride in the water? Why? Why do you put cancer viruses in the vaccines? Why have you used depleted uranium now in 4 separate nations? You're arrogant. You have the sickness that elites have had throughout history.
They're standing in front of a tidal wave saying, I'm not going to get wet. They're going to get wet, and they're going to be affected by this consciousness shift too, whether they like it or not.
The world has been turned into a maze of confusion, and it's done to keep us from the simple truths, because complexity is there to stop us finding those simple truths. But when you connect the dots, can you start to see why the world is upside down, why it is as it is? And crucially, behind that complexity, those smoke screens of complexity, why behind that is an amazing revelation of who we are and the nature of life. When we start to realize that far from being Ethel Jones or Billy Smith, we are all that is, has been, and ever will be. That is the difference between who we are and who we are manipulated to believe we are.
And obviously we are suffering from the effects of the Dark Ages, loss of consciousness, and as we awaken in these days, which we are, because the sun, the spiraling sun, is taking us to greener pastures.
I don't think mainstream media wants everyone to realize that there is a mass awakening taking place. But yet everywhere I go and everything I see points to it. Everywhere I go, there's this enormous amount of enthusiasm and interest in yoga, meditation, not just Eastern things, but philosophy, workshops and things that are about self-awareness.
People are becoming more conscious of the fact that we need to change our habits and improve and take responsibility.
You start living in love instead of living in fear. And if enough people catch on and start doing that, then we'll turn the world into a Garden of Eden again.
Our concern is not to worry about the Illuminati at this stage. Our concern is to imbue our lives with bliss and love, because their time is up. It's over, and that's obvious. It's obvious to the awakened masses now. They're running for the hills, desperately trying to cling onto their empire. But we can conquer this like David conquered Goliath by standing up, making a stand responsibly.
You will and you are failing now. Your new world order will fall. Humanity will defeat you.
Confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
There is only one of us here experiencing a fractal holographic experience of itself. Each one of those individuations, no matter how infinitesimal, has got the entire whole within itself.
There's this illusion that we're something else, but in truth all we are is consciousness observing the manifestations of consciousness dance before our eyes. We are all the same person watching ourselves from different viewpoints, from different attitudes, from different environments.
Everything in creation is the same energy, and energy is consciousness, energy consciousness. So we're looking at creation being one gigantic consciousness, one gigantic mind, of which we are all part. So we're like droplets of water in an ocean of consciousness. We're individual to a certain extent, but all together we make up the whole.
There's nothing to do in this world of bamboo, but everybody needs a hobby, right? You're just here to experience. You're having a good time, right? But the illusion that we put ourselves into can be so powerful that we can get lost in it.
Every human being is God himself, but he does not understand his true self and is constantly engulfed by the influence of his mind, his intellect, which we call as a great illusion. He's constantly driven by this great illusion.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride, and we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride.
The one energy wishes to experience itself, right? But when it's in the oneness, it cannot experience itself. It only knows it as a concept, and so it does the next best thing. It forgets what it is. By deliberately forgetting who you are, what you are, you can have the experience of remembering.
We are consciousness, disembodied, no form awareness, having an experience. Like a Central American shaman said, we are perceivers, we are awareness, we are not objects, we have no solidity. We, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime. And that vicious circle is what the control system wants to keep us in, because then we're controllable.
When we say, I'm doing some kind of spiritual practice, or following spirituality, what it means is I'm actually finding out who I am. What am I? Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here on this earth? And where will I go? You're actually demystifying these concepts yourself by realizing who you are.
Eventually you'll get to the point where you'll probably experience the truth of who you really are as opposed to the illusion that you believe you are. You know, you believe you're this physical body, you believe that you are your thoughts or whatever. The truth of it is you're the source of all those things. You're the source of your thoughts. You're the source of your body. You're the source of all your emotions. You're the place from which all that comes. But we've been tricked into believing, for whatever reason, that we are these things. But we're not these things. We're actually the creator of those things.
We are nothing short of divine. We are undifferentiated consciousness. As we remember who we are and acquiring more powers, we are learning that we are co-creators in this experience and what is about to happen.
Enlightenment really means you become aware what you really are. You become aware that you're one with God and that you are God.
Well, like a drop is to an ocean. You put a drop of water in the ocean and it becomes the ocean. Well, that's what we are. We are units of divinity. We are deific atoms, units of God. And that's what the scriptures say, we are sons of God, in that sense. So it's beautiful.
Far from being worthless, we are unique and vital droplets in this ocean of consciousness we call God or creation. This God, as we call it, is not some guy with a beard sitting on a throne saying, "You have sinned and you shall be punished," or somebody out there. It's actually within us. It's around us. It is everything. It is the consciousness that is expressing itself in all the variety of forms that we see. Obviously, we are at a different level of consciousness to a wall, but it's still, the wall is still God at a different level of consciousness. It's still the same whole.
Doesn't matter which race, culture everyone is confined to, but the same God which resides in me resides in everyone. And when one realizes the God within us, he can see the God within everyone.
You never see positive drug stories on the news, do you? Isn't that weird? Since most of the experiences I've had on drugs were real fucking positive. Who are these morons they're finding? That's what I want to know. How about a positive LSD story? Wouldn't that be newsworthy just once? To base your decision on information rather than scare tactics and superstitions and lies? Just once. I think it would be newsworthy. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
The body is the way our awareness experiences this reality. If I want to interact with this reality, which is a frequency range, I have to have an outer shell, we all do, that vibrates within this frequency range, because our consciousness is vibrating much too quickly. It's like radio 1 trying to make connection to radio 2. They're on different wavelengths. Never going to happen. So we take on this outer projection we call a body, and therefore I can pick this up and interact with this reality. What the control system wants us to do is to believe that that projection, that vehicle to experience this reality, is who we are, because then we go from I am all that is, has been, and ever will be. I'm Charlie Smith. I'm Ethel Jones. I've got no power. It's the whole bottom line of it.
The United States has 2 satellites. They're called the GOES, G-O-E-S. The role of these satellites is to measure the magnetic fields of the Earth and send back readings every 30 minutes. And those readings normally fall within a certain range of data that scientists are relatively used to seeing. Well, it was in September of 2001 that scientists began to see some readings that were off the map, just off the scale compared to what they'd seen in the past. And they said, well, what's happening? What is it that could be influencing the magnetic fields of the entire planet to such a degree that we're seeing these big spikes that our satellites are sending back? We've never seen these before.
Just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on the shot. Oh my God. Something else has just been.
They overlaid the data from the satellites onto a calendar of months and days, and lo and behold, what they found is that the spike was occurring precisely during the time of September 11th, 2001. And even more precisely, that the first spike occurred 15 minutes after the first plane hit the first tower in the World Trade Center. Now, the reason this is so important to a scientist is because for 300 years, our science has been based on 2 false assumptions. The first false assumption is that everything is separate from everything else, that what happens in one place has no effect on what happens anywhere else, and if it looks like it does, it's only a coincidence. The second false assumption is that our inner experiences of thought, feeling, emotion, and belief have no effect on the world beyond our bodies. Based on those 2 false assumptions that have been accepted for 300 years by scientists, I can see why there would be a disconnect when they're looking at magnetic fields of the Earth spiking precisely the moment the human emotion of the planet is focused on a disaster.
We live here in Australia, and recently there were 2 cyclones in the same year in northern Queensland. What I noticed when we went and looked on the weather station, on the Weather Channel, is the men and women who were telling the public about that thing, they're saying it could generate into a much bigger storm. And so what's called focused human attention is that they drew everyone's mind into the idea that this is going to generate into a much bigger storm. And that's what they kept saying until focused human attention on the storm made it grow bigger. Now, if we're thinking that that's not true, then we have to look at this gentleman who's getting some vessel of water, and he says love and puts a little label, love, and the molecular structure all goes into harmony. And then he gets the same water, puts in a different vessel, puts hate, and everything goes into chaos and stress. In actual fact, in a scientific basis now, if a person, the scientist, is carrying out an experiment, he has to leave the building, the area, everything, because his consciousness is going to affect the outcome of the experiment. So they now have to carry it out when he's not around to get a true result scientifically.
Thoughts are very powerful. If it is a positive thought, it will travel to the positive collective. If you send out a negative thought, it will travel to the negative collective around the world, and it will have a negative effect on the planet.
Well, almost universally, ancient texts and traditions have reminded us that we are connected. They've said that we are one, that we are part of our world, that we're part of one another, that we're part of the earth and the changes in the earth. And what I've found is, over the last 22 years, as I've traveled nearly every continent of the earth and spoken to people from so many different traditions and cultures, is that people really want to believe that. They want to believe, and they like to believe that we're truly connected, but they need a reason for that belief. Science is now giving us that reason for our logical mind to make the connection, to see how we're related and how we influence the world, and how by honoring that connection through our hearts, we literally have the power to influence the very fields of this planet to sustain life in the world, sustain the health and the healing and the well-being of our bodies, and it's all about the magnetic fields of the earth.
In Washington, D.C., people from all over the world came there to meditate, and the crime rate dropped dramatically during that time, proportionally to the amount of people who were meditating, in exact proportion. I work very hard here in this center to keep the vibrational rate of this room at a very high frequency. Now it's to the point where people who don't even have an interest in meditation come here into this room. There was one person who spent the night not too long ago, had no interest in meditation and that sort of thing whatsoever, and Kundalini awakened in the morning and had no understanding of that at all, had never even heard the word before. And so just by being in an environment which is kept pure, that happened. Now, take that on a larger scale. If we were, as a society, to do that to the whole planet, then your wildest imagination couldn't conceive of what is possible in such a scenario.
A person who sits there and meditates quietly in very, very strong gravity. They set up a gravity field that they're not moving no matter if the building falls down. They can counteract the negative effect of many.
Individual people by themselves, groups, societies, the mood of the whole planet can all be altered, can all be changed. And the reason is because the planet, groups, societies aren't what they appear to be. They're just another level of consciousness. We're all consciousness.
Consciousness changes, generally speaking, because of realization. However, when we're talking about collective consciousness, that is changed by media.
From channel to channel, on the news and on dramas and on every other program, And all it is brainwashing and demonization.
Generally, a human being is bombarded with unwanted thoughts constantly during the day, which depletes his mental energies. When one is depleted with mental energies, it causes a drain of one's own mental resources and drain of just our physical energy as such, due to which our ability to comprehend and think reduces. Our efficiency as a human being reduces as well. But when you do something spiritual, it's associated with spirituality, you're constantly gaining positive energy. So the ability for personality defects to manifest is less.
If consciousness changes to a higher vibration, which I feel is happening at 2012, then the society, the way we know it now, will not be there anymore. The old has to go. The new has to come.
I don't feel that one thing is going to evolve independently of another. I feel that in this field of consciousness that we live in, things operate in a uniform way. And we are now passing through a period in which an acceleration of consciousness is taking place.
Everybody's benefiting from these finer conscious levels that we are arriving at, simply by means of where the sun is taking us.
The earth itself is a conscious living entity. And if the beings living on it choose to raise their frequency, they choose to live in love as opposed to fear, plants will grow greener, the oxygen in the air will replenish, the pollution will start to disappear. It'll turn literally into a utopia, heaven on earth.
It's up to our focused attention to create that reality. But we have to become aware of who's meddling in our minds. Our mind is our biggest problem when it's not under our control,
Somehow we have this wrong idea that we have to do that by going out there and building it. You don't go out there to build it, you go in here to build it. You find it in here first and just allow it to radiate out around you. And everything else then naturally happens by itself.
As people begin to awaken and take on responsibility, we can expect to see a much more harmonious world.
It's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love.
What society would probably like for us to believe is love is like what we see on the Hollywood films. Love is actually a state of being. It's not actually something that you do to somebody else. If someone loves you and you don't feel love for them, you don't feel anything. You only feel love when you are radiating love, when you're giving love.
If you love yourself, you feel better in yourself. If you hate yourself, you loathe yourself. And why do you want to do that? Why do you want to be miserable? Why do you want to feel bad? Is that good for you?
The worry is just another prayer for what you don't want. All right? You see, if you want to create what you do want, focus on the, let's say, the grandest vision of the highest version you can possibly imagine. If you're going to do anything, make sure you're doing it out of joy and not fear.
If you feel negative, you have no energy. If you feel positive, you have much more energy and you can do a lot of things. You can help many people and yourself.
To choose to love over fear is choosing a state of awareness, a state of consciousness to exist in, to be in, as your reality. And even when the dark forces come along and try to draw you out of it, you still love them. Of course, they really hate that when you do that.
And all it is, like everything else, is a choice. A choice between fear and love. That's all it is. We can choose to be frightened. We can choose to hate It's a choice. Or we can choose not to fear, and we can choose to love. Not love on the basis of I love you if I fancy you, darling, but I love you because you exist. I love you whatever. I love you without condition.
As the loving component grows, that becomes more and more contagious, if you like, and the world tends to become a more loving place as a result. The critical mass of the love paradigm grows.
And if we want to change the world, it has to start with self. Fear, anger, hatred, condemnation, dictating what other people should be, that's the world we've got. That's the prison. But paradise is waiting. It's a thought, an attitude away. That's all it is, a choice away. Love. If we love each other and love the world, our lives are fundamentally changed and the world is fundamentally changed. And we are the generations, strange as it may seem when you survey the world today, we are the generations, I passionately believe, who are going to love the world into the paradise it really should be and was always designed to be.
Human beings actually are supposed to be eternal, full of knowledge and full of ecstasy. And I'm not talking about the pill. I'm talking about spiritual bliss, which is the highest frequency a living entity in a human body can experience.
Bliss is our birthright. We were made to enjoy love and happiness. That bliss is always there. There's so much potential for bliss, right? It's like a light switch. You go to turn it on and you know that the moment you turn it on, the light comes on in the room, fills. That's what the bliss is like. It's just there waiting for you to just turn it on and you can tap into it as much as you want. So people are not reminded of that. They've been pulled away by distractions. Go to work, go to school, do this, do that, get a career. And guess what? The bliss just gets left behind all the time. They just leave it behind. Why not enjoy it? It's there.
We're not governed by any calendar, no event, or any such thing. Every decision that you make takes you in a different direction. When you make good decisions all the time, take a moment to breathe, come into the now, make a conscious decision, everything has changed.
Now's the time to embrace the love and to leave the fear behind. The one that embraces the love is the one that knows that he can never lose.
The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one.
God is total love, and there is nothing else. And love is the glue of the universe.
The most important thing I'd like to say to people is to know who you are. Reclaim your sovereignty and learn the science of as above, so below, the macrocosm and the microcosm, because we are a microcosm of the universe, of the whole universe. Our body is the universe, full of atoms, trillions of atoms, which are stars.
I think we're part of a greater wisdom than we will ever understand. A higher order. Call it what you want. Know what I call it? The big electron. The big electron. Whoa. 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 It doesn't punish. It doesn't reward. It doesn't judge at all. It just is. And so are we. For a little while.
So once we know this and we realise what we really are and who we really are, then we stand up and virtually ignore this system of fear and embrace the love, and there is nothing that can stop us, there is nothing that can hurt us, there is nothing that can cause us to fear anymore.
Whatever we do in our life, please make sure that we sprinkle some spirituality onto it. When we sprinkle something spiritual into it, we also get the benefit of inner peace, inner calmness. Otherwise we get so lost in this world that we do not know what we want, and that's a very bad state to be in. So do take up some spiritual practice every day so that it helps you to nurture your mind, nurture your intellect, calms your mind. Be a sane person in this insane world. Be the happy person so you can help other people being happy. Otherwise you're part of the problem yourself then. And that's the worst place to be in.
We left a great place of unconditioned consciousness, and the purpose of life is to go through this cycle of necessity, glean all the wisdom that we can from it, and return to the cause much more than we were before. Much, much more.
For those people who have been a victim of the propaganda of the 2012 agenda to promote fear, what I would say the best thing to do is not to get fooled by that. And your worst enemy is fear itself. And to just trust in love.
If you remain in love, you receive all the blessings. So there should be nothing at all to fear about 2012 and what is coming.
You are what you think. What you think, you will become.
When the Buddha says that we are what we think, then I think we would be advised to hold the most positive and grand view we can possibly have, because what you think about is what you're going to create.
So every day, make it a blissful spiritual day and share that. Share compassion, share love, drop the fear. There is nothing to fear except fear itself.
It's really true what my guru and other teachers have said, that if you want to change the world, you've got to start with yourself.
Changing the world is not something in the future anymore. Oh, I hope it'll be better for the kids. It's here and now. We're going to see it happen.
The more one loves and finds unity in this world and harmony, the more the blessings will be when that time comes. And the times are coming. It's a coming. The beautiful rewards for all those who are poised to receive them, they're coming. The new world of love is coming.
As the date approaches, more and more people are becoming aware of its significance. Is it really a window of great change in consciousness? Is that what the ancients were trying to tell us? When we take a look around the world, we have seen decades of dictatorships collapse as humanity united and marched the streets in Tunisia, Yemen, and Egypt. Injustices have been exposed by WikiLeaks, such as the Afghan war logs, which uncovered corruption, murder of civilians, and a multitude of US military cover-ups. A global network of truth and awareness is uniting mankind via technology and the internet, the one last channel left unfiltered. As knowledge is spreading, people are awakening, and we are beginning to see a clearer picture of the world that we live in. Consciousness is shifting right before our eyes. The people in power may try to negatively influence the outcome of the coming shift. By creating a world war or collapsing the global financial system, they may generate enough fear to open the gates to their new world order. If that day comes, we need to remember their true agenda, unite as one and rise in love and compassion.
Troops out now! 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 United will never be defeated!
The people united will never be defeated! The people united will never be defeated! The people united will never be defeated! The people united will never be defeated!
What is the pathway forward? Perhaps we're here right now to define what comes next. Is it not up to us to act together and build a better future? A world without suffering? We have learned that the galactic shift is empowering us to create great change, and the elites are trying to influence that change with fear. We have learned that we are fractals of one consciousness experiencing itself, and with the power of the collective, we can change our experience anytime we choose to do so. When we focus all our devotion and envision a new beginning, we will create a world of peace, love, and harmony. The time is right now. Heaven or hell on earth is up to us, and it's only a choice between fear and love. How this will play out, only time will tell as we approach December 21st, 2012 and beyond.
In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason. Let us all unite!
Here's what we can do to change the world right now to a better ride. Take all that money we spend on weapons and defense each year and instead spend it feeding, clothing, and educating the poor of the world, which it would many times over, not one human being excluded, and we can explore space together, both inner and outer, forever.